This is Nick.
This is Jack.
It's Tuesday, TBOY Tuesday, September 24th. And today's pod is the best one yet. This is a TBOY.
The top 3 pop business news stories you need to know today.
Jack, do you remember what we said NESCAC stands for again? Do you remember that?
Something about like epic parties. I don't remember what the abbreviation was.
Notorious for epic social celebrations and chaos.
Yeah, it was a good one.
So all the Tufts and Bowden Yetis out there who had a good weekend, welcome back. If you partied at Princeton, you're going to need an IV. Jack, 3 stories for today's show. What do we got on the pod, man?
For our first story, Costco is launching the first ever Costco apartment building.
The solution to your high rent may actually be the Kirkland condo.
For our second story, Exxon Mobil was just accused of faux-cycling, a campaign for fake recycling.
Because only 5% of plastics get recycled, and this may be why.
And our third and final story is Jony Ive.
Jony Ive.
Jony Ive is the greatest industrial designer of our time. He designed the iPhone.
And after 5 years of secrecy, Jony Ive just unveiled his next big thing.
But Yetis, before we hit that wonderful mix of stories.
It's buttons, by the way.
That's a spoiler.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, but fantastic mix of stories. Great mix of stories, Jack.
You're probably listening to this podcast episode on your commute.
But do you know your average speed on that commute?
Nick and I looked it up. In Milwaukee, the average commuter drives at 23 miles per hour.
In Columbus, Ohio, it's 24 miles per hour. In San Diego, it's 27 miles per hour.
But today, in New York City, the average commuter is going 4 miles per hour.
4 miles per hour. You could speed walk. Actually, you could walk. You could just walk faster than that, Jack.
The slowest traffic day of the year in New York is today.
Right now. Because this week in New York City is the United Nations General Assembly.
Which means every world leader is in New York and every world leader brought their security personnel.
Hey, taxi, I gotta fit 6 Secret Service guys in here. Open the trunk.
So the average car, truck, and taxi cab in Manhattan right now is going 4 miles per hour.
If you are listening to this pod, you have not moved in that traffic while we're doing this pod.
No, we should sprinkle on some context.
Please, Jack.
New York City, 20 blocks equals about 1 mile.
So going from 96th Street down to Union Square, it's going to take you
1 hour or 3 episodes of this podcast.
But then Jack and I got more curious, so we looked it up in National Geographic. How slow is 4 miles per hour commuting compared to animals?
It turns out an elephant walks faster than that.
5 miles per hour.
House cats move faster.
5 miles per hour.
Even the giant great tortoise of the Galapagos Islands walks faster than 4 miles per hour.
4 miles per hour is so slow, you're getting beaten by a 500-pound turtle.
Who's probably 500 years old.
Yeah, take that, Darwin. So to all our Yetis in the city this week, don't get stressed about the traffic.
Just pretend you're a tortoise for a day.
Jack, I'll see you on the subway.
Taxi! Never mind. No taxi.
Let's hit our 3 stories.
15 years before this song, 2 boys from the Northeast met in the dorm. They had an idea that caused a cultural storm. It's the best one yet, but the best is the norm. Jack, Nick, that's it. I don't even think they need to practice. 50%, that's a fat tip. TBOY City on your list. If you know, you know, cause we ready to go. We can't wait no more, so just start the show. Start the show.
For our first story, Costco fans are rejoicing over the construction of the first ever Costco apartment.
But if you think you're getting bulk-sized living space for Costco-sized price,
Which is what we thought.
think again.
Jack, can we just kick things off talking about the financial stats over at our buddies Costco?
Based in Washington State, this 41-year-old company is worth $400 billion.
It's the 20th biggest company in America, and yet the stock is up 40% this year like a young buck.
What year is Costco not up 40%?
I know. What is going on over there? But did you know, Yetis, that Costco members can even book vacations through Costco?
I'm a Costco member, but I didn't know this one until we learned about it randomly in a business call last week.
We were chatting with someone on like a biz dev call, and they mentioned that you can get 5 nights with airfare to Tahiti in French Polynesia for like $3,600 a Costco member.
5 nights with airfare on one of those gorgeous huts that just sits above the water, and you can like open a door and land in the ocean.
So Yetis, you're probably thinking right now, if Costco got into the housing market, I'd rent a Costco apartment.
I trust Costco. I'll buy anything they put their brand on.
Well, here's the news. It's happening. A new Costco in Los Angeles is under construction right now.
And it includes 800 Costco apartments right above it.
Now, Jack, could you describe our vision when we heard about this first Costco apartment?
The unit must come with like a 12-pound tub of peanut butter, unlimited Costco Kirkland toilet paper, and a fridge that just keeps refilling with those $1.50 hot dog and soda combos.
Oh, what's in the freezer? A double chunk chocolate chip cookie.
And you can't get into the building unless you flash your Costco card.
And that was our vision for the Kirkland condo, as we call it.
But these apartments are the least Costco-y apartments ever.
Yeah, plot twist / spoiler. But the Costco is not getting into apartments right now, are they, Jack?
No, this is a one-off that they're doing just for their LA location for a very particular reason.
But it is a very interesting reason why Costco is doing their first ever apartment.
Here's the deal. Local approval of a big construction, like for a big box store in Los Angeles, that would take years and it might never get approved.
But interestingly, California state law AB 2011 allows a fast-track approval if affordable housing is included in the plan.
So instead of a purely commercial construction, like for most Costcos, Costco is doing mixed use for this particular LA location.
So it's both a commercial space and a residential space.
It's a Costco superstore on the first floor with 800 apartments on top, 184 of which are affordable apartments.
It sounds like the kind of thing Adam Newman came up with while he was high at a Target, Jack.
The apartments, though?
Yeah.
They're 600 square feet and smaller.
Yeah, that's the one problem here. The size of these Costco apartments are basically like your sophomore year dorm room, right, Jack?
Instead of like a bulk Costco size thing, it's like a sample size. It's really tiny.
Some people on Twitter are actually calling these Costco apartments Costco prisons.
Not something a Costco member would want to move into.
Still, any new housing is good housing for a city with crazy high rent like Los Angeles. And lovely Los Angeles has rent that's 3 times the national average.
Plus, there is a Costco literally down the elevator.
Yeah, so like if you jump up and down in your bathroom, they will hear you in aisle 6 by the toiletries.
They might even send you toilet paper to shut you up there.
We're going to need another pound of peanut butter, buddies. So, Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at Costco apartments?
Fixing housing requires 50 different solutions.
Yetis, unaffordable housing is a problem for all 50 states. It's the biggest driver of inflation, of poverty, and of unhappiness.
But each state has their own laws that controls real estate development. So each state needs their own solution to unaffordable housing.
Well, in California, that state law we mentioned says to developers, hey, if you build affordable housing, we'll waive a bunch of the red tape so you can get going.
California also has a new law focused on ADUs, accessory dwelling units.
Basically, if you got a backyard or like a garage with enough space to build an apartment in California, the state will now give you funding to start building that additional dwelling unit.
Today, we're talking about California solutions. Tomorrow, in tomorrow's episode, we're talking about New York's.
Because we found a wild one there that the Costco apartment folks are going to love.
Because making housing affordable in America requires 50 different solutions.
And the Costco Kirkland condo is just one of them. For our second story, ExxonMobil was just sued for a plastic conspiracy going back decades.
Here's the story of ExxonMobil, recycling, faux-cycling, and the tricks that plastic have played on us all.
Jack, let's kick things off with a little time travel. Post-war America, 1950s, 1960s, what is the most booming industry in America?
Plastics.
Yeti's plastics was the miracle material. It made possible all the things you're basically using today.
It made possible Tupperware, Legos, and that bachelorette party inflatable unicorn float that you posted on the gram this summer.
But the dirty secret to the plastic industry is this. Plastic is made of petroleum.
Which means plastic is part of big oil.
In fact, 16% of ExxonMobil's profits actually come from their chemicals division,
which includes plastics.
And here's the news. The state of California just sued ExxonMobil for deceiving the public about plastic for years.
This allegation against plastics, it sounds like the stuff of big tobacco from decades before.
To drive plastic sales, ExxonMobil spent decades allegedly convincing us that plastic was recyclable, even though it's not.
Here's a quote from California's Attorney General yesterday. The myth of recycling And the leader in perpetuating that myth is ExxonMobil.
Recycling as a myth? Jack and I got curious. We had to jump in TBOY style to this.
But first, it sounds like ExxonMobil is the fifth mean girl.
It does sound like the fifth mean girl, like Regina's sister.
Plastics.
Yeah, literally. Now, this lawsuit was filed the same day as World Climate Week in New York City, but it goes back 50 years.
According to the lawsuit, ExxonMobil research showed that recycling plastic is only possible in very limited cases.
Apparently, there's only like certain types of plastic you can recycle, but most plastics you cannot actually recycle.
But to the public, ExxonMobil was telling us the opposite.
ExxonMobil was telling us, hey, plastics aren't bad because we can recycle all of it, toss it in the bin, and go enjoy the rest of Buddy Timmy's bachelor party.
ExxonMobil lobbyists were even behind the creation of that Chasing Arrows logo, which we recognize as a sign that this thing is recyclable.
I think a lot of people have that as like a tattoo on their arms. The recycle logo is like a big deal.
It's not just a cute logo. It was the cure for all of our plastic woes, according to ExxonMobil.
But Jack, could you share the wild stat about the reality about plastic recycling?
Today, just 5 to 9% of plastic in America actually gets recycled.
Part of that is because you accidentally put a non-recyclable pizza box in the recycling bin.
But for the most part, it's that most plastics we thought could be recycled actually can't be recycled.
Get in, loser. We're going recycling. So, Jack, what's the takeaway for all our buddies at ExxonMobil?
Why is recycling failing? Because two of the most hated words of business, expensive and inconsistent.
Yeah, Jack and I weren't shocked to hear that ExxonMobil was sued for misleading the public.
They've already been sued for misleading us on climate change science. It's no surprise the plastic scientists did the same thing.
We've been covering business news for years. We've seen that story before. But what's more surprising is that just 5 to 10% of plastic is what gets recycled in the U.S.
That was a surprise to me. Now, one of the reasons California filed this lawsuit was to raise awareness on the limitations of recycling.
Pretty much the only plastic that can be recycled is plastic bottles. The rest is too variable, although you should still try to recycle your plastic.
Look up like your local trash collector and see what is recyclable.
But when recycling is possible, it's often more expensive than new virgin plastic is to create.
So the real solution to plastic, it's buying fewer single-use plastics and reusing it when you can.
That's why California is suing ExxonMobil for making us think that recycling is the solution to plastic. Hey Yetis, if you're a bestie, take a sec and hit that subscribe button.
And like this video while you're at it. If you leave a comment, by the way, we'll read it.
For our third and final story, Jony Ive is the most important designer of our lives. He's the guy behind the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad, just to name a few.
And Jony Ive finally just unveiled his secret project of the last 5 years. It's called Love From.
Now, Jack, you and I don't have full access to the Apple org chart, but if there was one person at Apple who's the most like Steve Jobs, who would you say it was?
It was Jony Ive, hands down.
Jony Ive. He was British. He was knighted by the Queen of England. And odds are he designed something that you are holding or touching or using right now.
Apple is known for its revolutionary tech design. We're talking about the iPhone, the iPad, the Apple Watch.
And Jony Ive, this man, he did all of them.
He even architected Apple's spaceship-like headquarters building in Cupertino, California.
Like Steve Jobs, Jony Ive believed in simplicity, in minimalism, in doing less to do more.
This was during a time that people were doing more to do more.
Yeah.
Like picture a 2005 German luxury car.
Yeah.
There was 100 buttons around you. So many buttons.
Remember the Blackberries? That was a whole lot of tapping.
Jony Ive did the opposite at Apple.
He had no tolerance for an extra button, and if he saw one, he was not going to be happy about it.
Fun side note, though. When he was a student in university, do you know what Jony Ive's senior dissertation was about?
The first thing Jony Ive designed before the iPhone? What was it, Jack?
He reimagined the loo.
Yeah, it was a toilet. He actually redesigned the toilet.
Ironically, toilets only have one button, the flush. Did he eliminate that one button? That's a story for another pod.
But Yetis, there are celebrity chefs, there are star architects, but Jony is the first ever celebrity industrial designer.
Thanks to him, at tech companies, engineers and designers are the people with power.
But in 2019, this iPhone designer left Apple at the top of his game to work on a secret project.
And he hasn't talked to anybody about it in 5 years.
No joke, that's a quote he said. Well, 5 years later, we finally found out in a New York Times interview last weekend what exactly Jony Ive has been up to.
He's been working on a company called Love From.
Love From, a company whose name was inspired by a Steve Jobs quote in a meeting with Jony Ive.
Steve Jobs told him to create from what you love.
And apparently, Jony Ive loves one neighborhood in San Francisco, Jack.
For the last 5 years, he's bought up $90 million worth of real estate in one block of downtown San Francisco.
It's actually a flu box from our recording studio. It's called Jackson Square. It's the one neighborhood in San Francisco that was not destroyed by the 1906 earthquake, and it's gorgeous.
A lot of Bay Area techies left San Francisco during the pandemic for low-tax, low-regulation states. Jony doubled down on his home city of San Francisco.
And now he's got 70,000 square feet of office space in lovely Jackson Square, San Francisco.
And he's not just testing out new toilets in that 70,000 square feet of office space. Over the last 5 years, he has built up a wildly awesome list of clients.
Get this, secretly, Jony Ive designed the windows on the new space shuttle for his new company.
He helped J.J. Abrams design the new lightsaber for the new Star Wars films.
Oh, and Jack, what about the first ever electric Ferrari that's about to come out?
The interior and the screen were designed by Jony Ive's Love From.
And his next move might be the biggest tech move in the history of hardware.
He is designing a physical hardware product for OpenAI, a virtual assistant that will physically be with you.
Add it all up, Yetis, and Jony Ive's secret company has been generating $200 million in revenue a year already on those clients.
If you hire Love From to design your next product, you have the best designer in the world.
Minimalist design, maximalist price. But Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddy Jony Ive and the Love From team?
It all comes down to the buttons.
The buttons. Yetis, our favorite part about this Jony Ive story was when we discovered his obsession with buttons.
Jony Ive's favorite book is a 5-volume series on the history of buttons, on clothing and in fashion.
And Jack, why is Jony Ive obsessed with buttons?
It's the part of the clothing that you touch the most. And buttons are the visual highlight.
He's obsessed with buttons because it's the perfect blend of fashion and function.
Do you remember the first iPod you ever had? It only had one button, and it had that wheel around it, remember?
That was Jony Ive.
And then the first iPhone, only one button. Like you said, in an era that the BlackBerry had 100 buttons, the iPhone had one.
Jony Ive did that one button.
Both of those were revolutionary for tech design.
So our big takeaway about Jony Ive is really about his fascination with buttons.
One small, seemingly insignificant detail can influence the outlook of the whole product.
Jack, could you whip up the takeaways for us for TBOY Tuesday?
Costco is building 800 apartments to take care of a new California law incentivizing new housing.
Fixing housing is a problem that requires 50 different solutions. Today, we looked at the Kirkland condo. Tomorrow, we'll look at New York City.
For our second story, ExxonMobil. They were sued Monday for allegedly misleading the public for decades when it comes to plastic.
Faux-cycling. Most plastic can't be recycled because containers are too inconsistent and too expensive.
And our third and final story is Jony Ive. He finally shared details about his top-tier design agency, Love From.
He's obsessed with buttons because the smallest details can affect the entire thing.
But Yetis, this pod's not over yet. Here's what else you need to know today.
First, stocks rose on Monday to another fresh record high.
Wall Street is up since the Fed cut interest rates last week.
And if this pace continues, this September would be the first positive September for the stock market in 5 years.
Second, the U.S. just proposed a ban on Chinese smart car technology, which is effectively a ban on Chinese cars.
Yeah, the Commerce Department thinks there are national security concerns to Chinese-made tech in our cars.
An extreme situation would be that foreign country taking control of your dashboard.
Yeah, it's all part of the Trojan horse technology concerns that began with TikTok.
And finally, Levi's just announced a partnership with, wait for it,
I'm waiting, baby.
Beyonce.
Beyonce. Remember, Beyonce's latest album had a song called Levi's Jeans, and Levi's slid right into her DMs right after that.
No, it's just a tease that was posted on Instagram. It shows a horse, a cowgirl, and a silhouette that is clearly Beyonce.
Although I'm checking now, Jack, and Beyonce is tagged in the picture. So I think on our fact check, we can confirm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beyonce.
It's Beyonce.
And Levi are now a thing. It's an item. It's beautiful. Now, time for the best fact yet. This one whipped up by Jack and me because we were shocked by these numbers. Wait to hear this.
The WNBA just finished the regular season. Attendance exploded this season. Let's look at the Indiana Fever. The average game had 17,000 fans in the seats, which is up from 4,000 last year. More than quadrupling.
And what about the TV audiences for the WNBA?
Overall, TV viewership rose by 170% compared to last year.
And it wasn't just Caitlin Clark. Attendance for every WNBA team grew by double digits compared to last year.
We have never seen year-over-year growth for something like this before.
That's hockey stick growth. The WNBA is going Gretzky.
Yes.
Yetis, you look fantastic today. But if you are sitting in 4-mile-per-hour traffic on your commute, Jack and I want to help you out for TBOY Tuesday. We want to hear from the Yetis. What should you do with a really slow commute?
Roll down the window, talk to the car next to you, strike up small talk like never before.
Yeah, at the point you're not moving, it's actually a good networking opportunity to really share a resume between cars. That's what that is at 4 miles per hour.
Pay it forward while you're not moving forward.
Yetis, drop a comment on YouTube or Spotify. We want to hear your best 4-mile-per-hour traffic commute life hack. Yeah. Jack and I will see you tomorrow. And before we go, a happy 101st birthday to Grandpa Miller down in Tucson, Arizona. Gotta be the king of Arizona right now.
He says that the secret to age is minding your own business. Okay.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that, Grandpa Miller.
Right.
We won't even ask any more questions. And congratulations to Parker Shell and the entire cast and crew at Grapevine High School's The Play That Goes Wrong.
Our best one yet was actually a line in his opening monologue. I'm honored. We're honored.
2 thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. And to Derek and Katie down in Denver, congratulations on that beautiful new baby. Nolan is the best one yet.
And thanks to Chase McElroy, who actually sent in a fact check about our best fact yet on fax machines.
Yeah, apparently fax machines can get hacked.
But they're probably harder to get hacked. Chase, don't send us a fact check to this fact check.
And Romanito Pinal in Roseville, California is celebrating a birthday on a lovely cruise to Europe.
Happy 27th birthday to Ibrahim Aziz in Toronto, Canada.
And a happy 40th birthday to Michelle Jones down in Somonauk, Illinois, where Michelle is not just doing logistics, she is teaching business and she's being fantastic, sprinkling our T-Boy takeaways into class.
Happy birthday to Jasmine Speta in Norderstedt, which is just outside Hamburg, Germany.
Celebrating with her sons Felix and Jonas and husband Max for the best birthday yet.
And to anyone else celebrating something today, make it a T-Boy.
Celebrate the wins. And if you want a shout out on this pod, just fill out the form in our episode description.
This is Jack. I own stock of Levi's, and Nick and I both own stock of Apple. And we both own ETFs of the S&P 500.